video off.
That's all right. Let me switch screens. So I may disappear for just a moment so while I go over this, because I'm not going to do a screen share as I go over these. So I wanted to take this time to just kind of do a review for you guys, because the final quiz has 50 questions. They're all multiple choice. But in all fairness to you guys, I want to go over and give you ideas on kind of how the questions are going to be worded. So you'll kind of know exactly what's going to be asked on that. So I'm going to go over like questions with you tonight. It may not be word for word exactly what you'll see, but they're going to be really close and very similar. So if you want to jot down notes as we go along, then you could also go back and review the recording if you missed something. So I'll go over about 50 items. So that's why I chose to do this on Wednesday versus Thursday, because I stacked my classes up on Thursday, and I knew it would probably take a little bit longer than our normal time. So that way, doing it this evening will give you an opportunity to kind of take down some notes. And if you have any questions. So as I said, it's all going to be multiple choice. You can use any notes, anything from the course you want. Take notes tonight, use that. As I said, multiple choice. There will be some true false on there. So that's pretty much it. No essay, nothing like that. So if you'll bear with me just a minute, I am going to switch over. Can everyone still hear me all right? Everyone with me? Is your audio on?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go over this. So it's going to record me. So, and I don't know if the camera will still show me or not, if you can see me with my screen switch like this. But so I'm just going to start going over questions. If you have anything, you can just feel free to stop me, okay? So one of the items you'll see is dealing with certain laws that we covered. And so a question may ask you which law below is responsible for such things regarding curb cuts, lever door handles, and ramps in place of steps. And it will list different laws. It will give you 4 options on that, such as it may offer IDEA, ESSA, Section 504, ADA. It will throw some different laws down there, and you simply just choose the correct answer. Another question that you may see is it may state that this law below is considered an anti-discrimination law, and it will give you some options, or it may also give you the option of all of the above. Okay, so just make sure you know what law or which laws are considered anti-discrimination laws. Next item is dealing with Public Law 94-142, and it's basically stating this law is the precursor for which law listed below, and it's going to give you 4 options. Might be ESSA, ADA, Section 504, or IDEA, and you'll simply just choose one. Okay. You'll see some questions that will ask specific questions on court cases that were provided in your readings, specifically Brown versus Board of Education. And it's going to give you options, 4 choices, and you choose which one is specific to Brown versus Board of Education. So some of the statements on there may be outlined FAPE, or allowed handicapped students to attend school, stop segregation in school by gender, or stop segregation in school by race. And you would simply choose the best answer on that. Next one is another court case, is Park versus Pennsylvania. And it's going to give you some options on that. It may even throw in the option of all of the above. And some statements could be, it was decided in a certain year. It allowed mentally retarded students to attend school, or intellectually disabled, or it gave those same students in that category the right to due process. So you would choose the best option, or all of the above. Another question that may be on is dealing with child find, and it may state something to the fact that child find can be accomplished by using the following method. And then it will list some methods, or it may give you the option to choose all of the above. So some different methods may be MTSS, early childhood screenings. It may list some other options on there. So just kind of make sure that you're familiar with that when you're selecting your answer. Another item pertaining to child find is it may ask you some different things that may pertain to child find, such as is voluntary or uses only parental referrals, is not appropriate for preschool, or requires public notice of practices. So you would choose your best answer. Also, you'll see some things, a question or two related to section 504. Specifically asking you to identify which of the following may be correct or the best statement. 504 has a narrow interpretation, more narrow interpretation than does IDA. Another option may be uses the term substantially limits and major life activity in the terminology, or it may ask you applies to business, or an option could be does not require FAPE. Okay, so you might be familiar with section 504. MTSS, multiple tiered systems of support. It's going to give you some options. You want to select which one's going to be your best answer. It may provide core instruction that covers about 20% of your students, or does not collect data, or has 4 tiers, or another option could be is a multi-tiered system of support. You would select one of those answers. Next one is dealing with transitioning from part C to part B. It's going to ask you maybe which one of the following is a characteristic of that. Options could be it requires writing a new IFSB, involves children turning 3, does not require evaluation and placement criteria, or has no effect on education for preschool age children. So make sure you're familiar with the transition from part C to part B. Also, required members of an IEP team. It's going to ask you who they are. It's going to give you some options. It may also give you the option to select all of them. So make sure you know who the required members of an IEP team are. Okay. Also dealing with an IEP, the statement is an IEP must have, and it's going to list some options before, and you're going to have to select one of them. It may throw some answers at you, such as agreement by all teachers to provide accommodations, no specifically designed instruction, present levels of academic and functional performance statements, or no determination for state testing. So make sure that you understand things that IEPs must have. Rule outs. It's going to ask you a question on things you rule out when determining eligibility. Okay, so remember, things that you would rule out could be lack of instruction in math and reading, could be student need for special education services, or it could be a student has limited English proficiency. So remember some of those things. Also on this multiple choice, it may give you the option to pick 2 of the 3 on that. So least restrictive environment, you will have some questions over that, and it's going to say something to the fact as least restrictive environment is determined, and it's going to give you options. Is it determined by the principal? Is it determined by the SPED teacher? Is it determined by the parent? Or is it determined by the IEP team? Okay. FAPE, F-A-P-E, FAPE stands for, and it's going to give you some options. It's going to list 4 options for you, and you will select the one best answer for that. Okay. Next one is dealing with a question pertaining to accommodations and modifications. And it's going to be something to the fact that both accommodations and modifications need to have listed, and it's going to give you options. Does it need to have frequency, location, duration, or all the above? So remember, on IEPs, when we're talking about accommodations and modifications, what must be included on that? What has to be listed, okay? Also talking about typical type of grievance procedures. It's going to list some options. Are typical type of grievance procedures considered mediation, formal complaints, due process, or would it be all of the above? So make sure you understand types of grievance procedures. A student with an IEP may be moved to a 45-day interim alternative education setting 4. And it's going to list some options down there. So make sure you understand when the student's on an IEP and being able to move them to a 45-day alternative setting. What are events or items or occurrences that will allow you to do that? And it's going to list some options for you, okay? And remember, when that happens, it's usually something that's pretty serious. Usually it's dealing with drugs, alcohol possession, weapons, serious physical harm that they've caused. So remember, on that, it's going to be something that's pretty serious, okay? True, false. Here's some examples of some true, false questions that'll be thrown at you and how they're worded. Maybe something to the fact that Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESSA, was passed as part of the War on Poverty and gave money to help disadvantaged students. Basically, is that a true or false statement? Okay. Some other true, false items would include Elementary Secondary Education Act. Again, ESSA has never been reauthorized. Okay, so you need to go back in your notes, look at that. Seems like went over that on a slideshow, maybe back around week 2 or 3 in some of your readings, and those were some of the high points. I believe we covered that, so make sure you brush up on that. Also, true, false, part of IDEA changes was to use person, first language, and change handicaps to disabilities. Okay, so basically, is that a true or false statement? Another true, false, parents of children that are not protected by IDEA have no rights in privacy and confidentiality. Okay, parents of children not protected by IDEA have no rights to privacy and confidential. Is that true or false statement? True, false, dealing with MTSS, information cannot be used to do or to document progress or make a referral for a special education evaluation. Is that a true or false statement? MTSS information cannot be used to document progress or make a referral for SPED, okay? True, false, IDEA requires reevaluation every 3 years. We specifically talked about this when I went over, popped up a slideshow again that goes back to approximately week 2 or week 3, if I remember correctly. We talked about the reevaluation process. Okay, that comes up. It requires that, but parents and the team may agree not to do it. But you have to consider that and discuss it. So remember that. Section 504, true or false? Section 504, services are carried out by special education personnel. Is that true or false? Section 504, services are carried out by special education personnel. Okay. True, false statement. Schools need to appoint a 504 coordinator. Is that a true or false statement? Okay, another true or false? Americans with Disabilities Act covers business and private enterprises. ADEA covers business and private enterprise. True or false? Again, several of these that are asked in the true or false were mentioned specifically in those slides pertaining to the chapters back during week 2 and 3. Next one, true or false? New buildings now have to meet ADA requirements. New buildings, new construction, new buildings that are opened up for schools and businesses, public, have to meet ADA requirements. True or false? Parents must give consent for an initial evaluation. Okay, remember we talked about that, had some discussion. Okay, teacher can't just come in and say, hey, I want to have a kid evaluated, and we just haul off and do it. Okay, remember, we've got to have consent for that. So most of you guys are going to know automatically that's a true statement. We must have consent for an initial evaluation. True, false? Parents are not part of the evaluation team. True or false? Parents are not part of the eval team. True or false? You have 60 days to complete an evaluation once consent has been signed. Is that true or false? Remember, we got into talking about our timelines. Timelines once it's been signed, and then timelines on getting that testing done and doing the MEGS meeting. So make sure you double check that. True, false? Children must meet eligibility criteria to be identified as needing special education services. Okay, pretty straightforward. A lot of these are. They must meet eligibility requirements. We can't just test them and assume they're going to meet it and automatically put them in there. We've got to make sure they meet the criteria. True, false? A child may be deemed eligible but not need special education services. A child may be deemed eligible but not need special education services. Okay. True, false? Testing may also include occupational therapy, OT, and physical therapy, PT, if needed, in addition to academic data. Okay, so testing process, may it include OT and PT if needed? True, false? If a doctor writes a prescription, the team must follow it. Is that a true or false statement? If a doctor writes a prescription, the team must follow it. True, false? An evaluation team consists of the school psychologist and the special education teacher. Okay, so it's asking specific, only those two. Okay, remember who all is involved on the evaluation team. So I want to point that out to you. That's going to be false. That's a false statement. It's not just the school psych or the psychometrist and the SPED teacher. Okay. An IEP must be reviewed annually. True or false? Next one, true or false statement. IQ is the only test needed to determine eligibility for services. IQ is the only test needed to determine eligibility for services. Okay, so make sure you know that. Dyslexia, the next one, true or false statement. Dyslexia is covered under specific learning disability. Is dyslexia covered under specific learning disability? True, false? Children with an IEP are entitled to confidentiality. Is that a true or false statement? Next one, gifted students are covered under IDEA. Gifted students are covered under IDEA. Next statement, LRE, least restrictive environment, is not part of FAPE. LRE, or least restrictive environment, is not part of FAPE. True or false? Okay, jumping back to a court case and asking you a true false statement on a case that you read and covered, specifically Andrew decision. The Andrew decision made no changes to how IEP services are provided. Okay, so make sure you brush up on the Andrew case. Next one, true false statement, accommodations and modifications help level the playing field for children with disabilities without giving unfair advantage. Okay, accommodations, modifications help level playing field for children with disabilities without giving an unfair advantage. I'm going to refer that true false statement back to week before last. I was kind of going over the chapter, the highlights using the slideshow, and it showed the picture of the students in the outfield fence kind of peeking over, and they were standing on boxes and showing equality and comparing the two versus equity. If you remember that, we talked briefly about that. Next one, true false statement, extended school year, ESY services are not part of the IEP. True or false? Extended school year services are not part of the IEP. Okay, just have a few more here. True, false. Child find is not required for students that are homeschooled. Okay, child find is not required for students that are homeschooled. I think we got into a little bit of that last week in our discussion and some of the slides and highlights from those assigned readings. And we talked a little bit about homeschool students and also going out providing services. I think an example was mentioned for some of the Amish. Okay, you guys remember that discussion? So, and that was all pertaining to child find. Next one, special ed students are rarely bullied. True or false? SPED students are rarely bullied. Next, true or false statement, a behavior intervention plan or BIP, BIP, may be part of an IEP. A behavior intervention plan may be part of an IEP. True or false? Okay. True false statement dealing with discipline and building level administration. A principal has 15 days of out of school suspension they can use before procedural rights are activated. They have 15 out of school suspensions or days of out of school suspension they can use before procedural rights are activated. True or false? Okay. Last one. Breeze through these pretty quick. Number 50, item 50. Manifestation determinations are used for every behavior offense by an IEP student. Manifestation determinations are used for every behavior offense by an IEP student. Okay. Is that going too fast for you? Okay, the questions you're going to see are going to be very similar. Okay, I couldn't get it any closer for you. As you see, it's pretty well going to be evenly balanced between multiple choice and also true false on there on the questions. Okay, so this kind of has a wide variety on there. There are going to be some options on like the multiple choice, you know, where it has A, B, C, D, where you have the option of choosing all of the above on like A, B, C that's given to you because they all fit into that category. Okay. Anybody have any questions over those? I just kind of want to go over and give you an idea, since there were 50 of them and there's been lots of things. So I didn't want you to think maybe it was just going to be specifically over court cases. I also want to make sure you understood that there's no written response, there's no essays. It's strictly true, false, multiple choice. I feel like it's pretty straightforward on the questions. Anybody have any questions over the items I went over to try to help you out? Did I go too fast where you had notes? No, everyone's good.
Hey, can you repeat the last one?
The very last one, I believe, was on manifestations determination. Yeah, let me flip my screen back over real quick. Okay, it states that manifestation determinations are used for every behavior offense by an IEP student. So the way that reads, it's basically saying that it's an automatic deal. They use manifestation determination every time that a student on an IEP has a behavioral incident. Would you find that to be true or false?
I'd say false.
Yeah, you're right. It is false. Okay, because they're going to have some minor behavioral incidents, right? Just like any other normal one. But when that comes into place, when you have a major behavioral offense, like if they physically have assaulted another student or they have physically assaulted a staff member. Okay, so a lot of times it's due to a major behavioral episode. Okay, they're going to have some minor issues. Okay, does that kind of clear it up for you and answer your question to that, or give you some clarity?
You.
Okay. Are there any other ones that maybe you weren't for sure on, you want me to go back to or touch on? Maybe anything that you weren't quite for sure about? Everyone's good. Use your notes from this session here. I'm going to post this as soon as we get done. I'll download it and get it up on Blackboard. You can go back, listen to it, review it, however you want to do it. You basically have till Sunday night at midnight to do it at your leisure, whenever you want to do it. It became available Monday at 6. I did have a couple students go ahead and take it, but as of right before this, there was only maybe 2, 3 in the course. So I just wanted to provide this opportunity to go over it and answer any questions and just give you some pretty clear-cut ideas what you could expect on it. So
appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem. And if anything comes up, just shoot me an email. And really don't, after doing this tonight, really won't have any need to really meet with you tomorrow unless you just have a specific question. You got the assignment that's due Friday. I tried to do it a little bit different so it wouldn't all fall on Sunday for you with that final, to where you submit the assignment Friday. And then you have the rest of the weekend if you want to take it, study up, and then take the quiz before Sunday at midnight. So, but if something comes up, you have questions, just shoot me an email, okay, and I'll answer it for you, okay? Good luck, and I've enjoyed it, and good luck on your next 8-week class. I know several of you are going to do that, so good luck, okay? You guys have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.